Congress will pass some bills I cannot sign. I'm pretty sure I'll take some actions that some in Congress will not like. That's natural. That's how our democracy works. But we can surely find ways to work together on issues where there's broad agreement among the American people.
In the first few moments after voters finished sending their mandate to politicians in Washington about where this country needs to go, there were plenty wringing their hands with glee, confident they had a president and his policies on the run. Barack Obama isn't running, and to some he's put up something of a puzzling and even arrogant front for the work that needs to be done. That public stance has Washington and the nation wondering if, despite new leadership in Congress, if we are on the path to a resolution or a train wreck of vetoes and new discourse. Let's welcome to MidPoint, leading the 27th Congressional District in Texas, re-elected this week with a resounding 63% of the vote, Republican Blake Farenthold. Congressman, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. 63.68%, but who's counting?
Okay, well, 63.68, I should have said 64% then, because, of course, we always round it off to the next number, right?
Absolutely.
The president and his statement. Did the president, in his first words after all was said and done, did he thumb his nose at you and the rest of Congress and basically say, come on and get me if you can? Or is he just playing a game of poker by not showing his hand yet?
I think he's not showing his hand. In one sentence, he reaches out and says he'll work with Congress, and then in the next sentence, he says we're not going to like some of the things that he does. And I think we're going to have a big disagreement with the president over what he thinks the American people want and what the election, I think, shows the American people want.
Do you believe for 1 second when the president says that I am willing to work with Congress that that is a true statement?
I am very skeptical, but I remain a glass half full kind of guy, because Clinton actually had some great accomplishments in a divided government, and I'm hoping that the president is enough egotist or is concerned enough about his legacy that he will learn from the Clinton administration and not go out on his own, not try to do what he wants to do, but work with Congress to come up with a consensus of what the American people want done.
If he does decide to do it his way, in your opinion, knowing what happens in Congress, knowing what it's like to go against a president, how hard is the hammer going to come down from the Republicans to basically say, it's not going to happen here, Mr. President?
I don't think the Republicans in either House of Congress are going to let the president have a free pass doing things that are clearly against the will of the American people or against the values that we all ran on.
Let's talk about immigration, because certainly in your neck of the woods, there's a lot of talk of it there, and that's going to be the big gun, it would seem, that's going to be discharged first, if you will, here, where the president says, and he's made every indication, he's going ahead with his executive order. Now, to be fair, if he does, aren't you sort of powerless?
Well, the president can tell whatever agencies that he has control over not to enforce the law, but the law remains what the law is, and he may not choose to, he may choose to do some sort of executive amnesty program, but that's not necessarily binding as time goes on. If you're not on a permanent, on some sort of pathway to citizenship, resident, whatever, that's been approved by Congress, there's no guarantee you're going to get to stay over the long haul.
But doesn't he have you something over a barrel here? Because if he goes ahead and does the executive action, the time it will take to unravel it, the differences it will take, the discussions it will take, it could be years before something is actually brought to fruition here as far as what the mandate is, correct?
I agree, and I think the message, certainly out of my campaign, that I heard resoundingly was, let's do border security first. There's no point doing anything about immigration reform if we have no control over who's coming and going from this country. Now,
are you prepared to go in, and if you had a chance to tell the president, the buck stops here with us this time, and you better listen up?
Well, we still hold the purse strings. The argument, of course, goes back to who do the American people blame if we come to a showdown over spending. And the president has a very powerful a spin machine and very strong allies in the mainstream media. But if we pass legislation on a bipartisan basis out of both houses of Congress, it sure seems like it should be obvious to the press and to the American people where the problem is if the president...
Stay where you are, Congressman. We'll be right back.